Good afternoon. Welcome to Keene State College and the Town Hall event with Senator Bernie Sanders this afternoon. We're very pleased to have the Senator on our campus, and we're equally delighted that we're live streaming this event to places like Mount Wachusett Community College, SUNY Cortland, Stockton University in New Jersey, Weber State University in Utah, Washington State University in Washington State. This is sponsored by the American Democracy Project. Our national organization, the American Association of State Colleges and Universities, is committed to building civic engagement skills in our students. This is a great opportunity for that. I'd like to introduce Bobby Graham, Student Body President.
Thank you, Professor Dolans. The American Democracy Project has opened up a series of opportunities for me, my life, and what I've done at Keene State College. I've had the opportunity to travel to Louisville, Kentucky, New Orleans, work on different things such as economic inequality projects on campus, things that you've seen, and working on the student debt issues as well. Today on campus, we have an incredible person, Senator Bernie Sanders, and I think I speak on behalf of every Keene State student when I say that we welcome you here with open arms. Ladies and gentlemen, none of this would be possible today without the help of the organizers, some of the student organizers of the event, so I'd like to bring them out here right now so you can meet them.
Thank you so much, Keene, for this incredible turnout. My name is Megan Harris, and I'm the field organizer for the majority of Cheshire County. I just want to say that by coming here today, you're doing something incredibly revolutionary. You're challenging the apathy that allows the political establishment to trample on the rights of women and destroy our environment. You are changing politics as we know it by demanding that we begin the real conversation, asking why it is that Americans collectively owe $1.2 trillion, yet we live in the wealthiest country in the nation. You're helping to ask how it is that we got a government that starts unnecessary wars and then turns its back on our veterans. You're helping to ask why it is that although the majority of Americans want sensible gun control, Congress only seems to listen to dirty money of the gun lobby. But today, you, and especially the students here, are leading up to the change that we would love to see in this country. We will change politics on February 9th, when New Hampshire's first in the nation primary breaks all records for voter turnout and votes to nominate Bernie Sanders as the Democratic nominee. I have to say, though, that being here today isn't enough. Voting on February 9th isn't enough. We only win when we organize. So please join us tomorrow at Troy Elementary School at 11 a.m. or 2 p.m. As we knock doors with our neighbors to continue the conversation. To find out other ways to help in the remaining 65 days before the primary, visit berniesanders.com/events. Text Bernie to 82623. Again, that's 82623. Or stop by our office here in Keene at 20 Central Square, ironically located above the Bank of America. We're open daily from 10 to 8. You'll see me there a lot if you come to visit. Whatever your skill, whatever your availability, we promise that we will find a way to include you in this historic effort to elect Bernie Sanders and transform America. Thank you. I'll now turn it over to Tom Labor, who is one of our dedicated student interns.
Thank you, Megan. That was a great introduction, very warm. Hello, brothers and sisters of Keene and the Connecticut River Valley. My name's Thomas. I'm from Manchester, New Hampshire. I'm a freshman here at Keene State, and I'm an intern on the campaign, and I've been working on the campaign for about 3 months now. As a student and a member of a middle-class family, the political revolution really means a lot to me. My mom is a steward for the National Postal Mail Handlers Union, and she is a voice for all the people at her workplace. I guess you could say it's because of her that I got involved in politics so young. First time I got involved in politics, it was during the 2010 elections. I guess you could say she really passed that passion down to me. After the 2010 elections, a lot of the candidates that were out to fight for the working people did not succeed, and that made me feel really disheartened. I became disillusioned with politics shortly after that election, until I saw Bernie speak for the first time. I remember being at the first speech I saw Bernie do. I was with my mom, and she turns to me and she goes, "This is the guy. This is the guy." You know, whether it's social and economic equality, making public college tuition free, addressing climate change, ensuring that healthcare is a right for all of our people, or ending political corruption by getting money out of politics, I think there's a piece of the political revolution in each and every one of you out there. Bernie gives me hope for our future, and I know today we're all here for Bernie, but more importantly, Bernie is always here for us. So, without any further ado, it's my greatest honor to introduce the next President of the United States, Senator Bernie Sanders.
Thank you, Keene. Wow. All right, let me thank all of you who are here in this auditorium, and thank the many, many hundreds who are outside for coming out today. And let me thank Dr. Patrick Dolans and Bobby Graham and Megan Harris and Tom Labor for their very wonderful introductions. And also, let me thank the American Democracy Project for live streaming this event all over the country on hundreds of campuses throughout America. Here is the truth, and the truth is that we are living in tough times, but when I hear the kind of remarks that the young people just made a moment ago, it really moves me. And it helps give me the strength to keep carrying on. You guys are the future of this country. And when I see 1,300 young people coming out, demanding to make this country the kind of country we all know that it can become, you are sending a signal to people all across America that yes, we are going to bring about a political revolution. And what a political revolution means is that the American people, all of us, are tired of same old establishment politics. We're tired of establishment economics. We're tired of establishment media. That we want to see a vibrant democracy in this country where the American people are standing up and saying loudly and clearly, enough is enough. Our government belongs to all of us and not just a handful of billionaires. And let me state to you what I state in virtually every speech that I give. Obviously, I am here because I'm running for President of the United States, and I want your support. Yes, I am here today because I think we've got an excellent chance to win in New Hampshire, and New Hampshire is vital to winning the Democratic nomination. But what I will also state to you, what the political revolution is about is that I need you, this country needs you, not just up to the election, we need you the day after the election. And the reason for that is that the powers that be in this country, a nation which is increasingly moving toward an oligarchic form of society, both economically and politically, the reason we need a political revolution is that we cannot bring about the kinds of fundamental changes we need unless millions of people are prepared to stand up to Wall Street, corporate America, and large campaign donors. Those people don't own America. You own America. Our job is to take it back. And let me start off by talking about, and what I will do tonight, and one of the reasons I am running for president, is that there is not serious discussion and debate about the most serious issues facing our country. And our job is to put those issues right on the table, listen to different points of view, rally the American people, and go forward. And let me start off with one issue right away, and that is the state of American democracy. A year ago this week, we had a national midterm election. Republican Party did phenomenally well. We gained control of the U.S. Senate, gained seats in the U.S. House. In that election, 63% of the American people did not vote. 80% of young people did not vote. 75% of low-income working people did not vote. Millions of Americans, for a variety of reasons, have given up on American democracy. They look at what's going on in their lives. They're working longer hours for lower wages, can't afford child care for their kids, worry about retirement, and they look at Congress, and they see a Congress busy trying to give tax breaks to billionaires or get us into another war, and they say, who is listening to my pain? Who knows what's going on in my life? Why should I give these people credibility by participating in an election? Our job and what the political revolution is about is to transform all of that, is to demand that we have a Congress which addresses the real issues of the American people, and that millions of people are participating and fighting for themselves, their kids, and their parents. That is the way we transform America. And when we talk about a political system, and we talk about the sorry state of American democracy, it is important for us to understand that as a result of the Citizens United Supreme Court decision, 5-4 decision, what the Supreme Court said to the wealthiest people in this country, they said, guys, you already own much of the economy. Now we're going to give you the opportunity to own the United States government. You can spend as much as you want to buy elections. And you got people like the Koch brothers and a few of their friends spending some $900 million in this election cycle in order to elect candidates who represent the wealthy and the powerful. In my view, when billionaires are able to buy elections, that's not democracy. That is not what people fought and died to defend. That is called oligarchy, and together we are going to change that. I do not want to see the United States of America, our great country, election after election, have one of the lowest voter turnouts in the world. I want to see us have one of the highest voter turnouts in the world. I want to see any of you, regardless of your political views, you're conservative, you're progressive, whatever, I want to see you be able to run for office and get involved in the political process without having to beg the wealthy and powerful for campaign donations, which is why I believe in public funding of elections. And when we talk about a drift toward oligarchy in this country, it is not only our political system, which is controlled more and more by super PACs and their billionaire campaign contributors, it is also our economy as well. Not surprisingly, it didn't get a whole lot of attention from the media, but there was a report that just came out last week. Here's what it said. The 20 wealthiest people in this country now own more wealth than the bottom half of the American people, some 150 million Americans. 20 people, 150 million Americans. The top 1/10 of 1%, not 1%, 1/10 of 1% now owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. One family, the Walton family who owns Walmart, one family owns more wealth than the bottom 40% of the American people. In the last 2 years, while millions of families in New Hampshire, Vermont, all over this country, you got husbands, wives, single moms working incredibly long hours and trying to bring in enough money to take care of their families. And in fact, our people today work the longest hours of any people in an industrialized country. People are working incredibly long hours. What you have today is 58% of all new income going to the top 1%. This is not the kind of an economy that the American people deserve. We deserve an economy that works for the working families and the middle class of this country, and not just a handful of billionaires. I am running for president because we live in the wealthiest nation in the history of the world, but most Americans don't know that because almost all of the wealth and income is going to the people on top. The reality of today is the very rich get much richer. In the last 2 years, 15 wealthiest people in this country saw their wealth increase by $170 billion. 15 people. That is more wealth than is owned by 130 million Americans. So what we have got to understand and put it right on the table is that we have a rigged economy. Heads, Wall Street and corporate America win, tails, working families lose. And that is the kind of economy that together we have got to transform. I am running for president because I am tired of hearing politicians talking about family values, talking about their love and concern for children, when in America today we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth. 20% of our kids are living in poverty. Some 36% of African American children are living in poverty. In the wealthiest country in the history of the world, we should not have the highest rate of childhood poverty of any major country. In the wealthiest country in the history of the world, in a smart country, in a country that understands that our children are the future, we should make sure that when mom and dad go to work, there are excellent, affordable child care facilities available to their children. I am running for president because millions of people are working at wages that are just too low. In my state and here in New Hampshire, it is not uncommon to see somebody work not just one job, but two jobs and occasionally three jobs. What we need is we need a minimum wage, which is a living wage, not a starvation wage, which is why we have got to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour over the next several years. And I hope that every man in this room will stand with the women and fight for pay equity for women workers. There is no rational economic reason why women are making 79 cents on the dollar compared to men. That's just old-fashioned sexism, and that has got to end. And when we talk about family values and our love of family and our respect for children, we have got to end the international disgrace of the United States being the only major industrialized country that does not provide paid family and medical leave. Now, I want you to think about this for a moment. We are the only major country on earth that doesn't provide this. Today in New Hampshire and Vermont, a mom is going to have a baby. And for those of you who are parents, that's a pretty big day that you will not forget, and for the baby, it's a pretty big day as well. But here's the reality. If that mom comes from a family that has decent income, she will do what all parents want to do. She'll have the time to stay home with that baby, nourish that baby, love that baby, get to know that baby. Dad will be there as well. That's what family values are about, getting to know your newborn baby. But what happens if that mom in New Hampshire or Vermont or California or any place else doesn't have a whole lot of money? What happens is, in truth, is that mother is being forced to separate herself from a newborn baby, go back to work a week or 2 weeks after giving birth because she needs to bring some income into that family. Forcing a mother to separate from her baby is not a family value. It is the opposite of a family value. That is why we need to pass paid family and medical leave. There's a bill in Congress right now I strongly support, introduced by Senator Gillibrand of New York, another bill. We have 20 co-sponsors in the Senate. In the House, Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro introduced it. We have over 100 co-sponsors. And what it says is for $1.38 a week, we will be able to guarantee 12 weeks of paid family and medical leave. I hope every presidential candidate is prepared to support that. When we talk about the economy, you got to talk about jobs. Let's say a word about jobs. Every month, the federal government comes out with a bunch of statistics regarding employment. One of them is what you see on the front pages of the papers, and that is quote unquote official unemployment, which nationally is now about 5%. But official unemployment is not real unemployment because the official report does not include people who have given up looking for work or people who are working part-time when they want to work full-time. Add all that together, real unemployment is very close to 10%. Second point regarding unemployment, and we do not discuss this at all. For some reason, the media is not particularly interested in this issue. I asked a few months ago some economists to do a study on youth unemployment in this country. This is what they found. For kids who are high school graduates, I'm not talking about dropouts, high school graduates between the ages of 17 and 20, if they were white, real unemployment, that means unemployment or underemployment, was 33%. If they were Hispanic, 36%. If they were African American, the unemployment and underemployment rate was 51%. 51%. Now, if anybody here thinks there is not a direct correlation between this outrageously high rate of youth unemployment, 5.5 million young people in America, not in school, not in jobs. If you think there's not a correlation between that tragic reality and the fact that we have more people in jail in America than any other country on earth, you would be sorely mistaken. So my view is that at a time when we have 2.2 million Americans in jail, disproportionately black and Hispanic, when we are spending $80 billion a year locking up Americans, maybe, just maybe, it might make more sense for us to invest in education and jobs rather than jails and incarceration. This is not rocket science. If you give young people employment, if you give them the opportunity to do constructive work, if you keep them in school, there will be significantly fewer people getting arrested and getting into jail. And when we talk about jail, let me also mention this to you. And that is, we need major reforms in a very broken criminal justice system. And for a start, we have got to rethink the so-called war on drugs. Now, I'm not here today advocating, I really am not, the use of marijuana, but what I am telling you is a fact, that over the last several decades, many, many hundreds of thousands of people who were found possessing marijuana received police records. Some of them ended up in jail. And when you have an arrest record, this impacts your life in a very significant way. It makes it harder for you to get a job, makes it harder for you to get credit, makes it harder for you to do a lot of things. And that is why I have introduced legislation that would take marijuana out of the Federal Controlled Substance Act. It is absurd on the surface that marijuana is at a Schedule I category at the same level as heroin. Makes no sense to me at all. And when we talk about the economy and we talk about jobs, I think most of us do not want to live in a nation in which our infrastructure, our roads, bridges, water systems, wastewater plants, our rail system, airports, levees, and dams are crumbling. We used to have the strongest cutting-edge infrastructure in the world. That is no longer the case. We have got to rebuild our crumbling infrastructure. $1 trillion investment over 5 years creates 13 million decent-paying jobs, and that's what I will do. I am running for president because when we talk about a broken criminal justice system, we have got to understand that substance abuse, a huge problem in New Hampshire, a huge problem in Vermont, and all across this country, that this problem is a health issue, not a criminal issue. And I'm running for president because we need to join the rest of the industrialized world and guarantee health care to all people as a right, not just a privilege. Now, don't tell me that in this great country, with so many great doctors and hospitals and nurses and medical technicians, don't tell me that when Canada has a national healthcare system, when the UK and France and Germany and all of Scandinavia and every other major country on earth has a healthcare system which guarantees healthcare to every man, woman, and child in those countries and provides healthcare much more cost-effectively per capita than we do, do not tell me that we cannot have a system guaranteeing health care to all of our people. And that is why I strongly support a Medicare for All single-payer program, which will not only guarantee health care to all people, it will substantially lower the cost of prescription drugs. Pharmaceutical industry spends huge amounts of money every year on lobbyists and campaign contributors, and the result is that you pay, our people pay, by far, the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. It is so absurd that today, 1 out of 5 Americans who go to a doctor and get a prescription, they're unable to afford the prescription their doctor's right. It is so absurd that you can have an illness, be dependent on a medicine, walk into a drugstore tomorrow, and the druggist says, well, I'm sorry, the price has doubled in the last month, because the drug companies can charge us any prices they want. That is wrong. We need to lower drug prices in America. We need to do what every other major country does, make health care a right for all people, not just the privileged. I am running for president because we have to do exactly the opposite of what many Republicans are attempting to do right now. They are attempting to divide us up based on whether or not we are gay or straight, whether or not we're a man or a woman, whether or not we were born in America or born someplace else, whether or not we are Muslim or Christian or Jewish. Our job is to bring the American people together, not allow them to divide us up. And brothers and sisters, we have seen this movie many, many times throughout our history and throughout world history. It's nothing new. When countries have serious problems, and there's a lot of anxiety, as there is in our country today, it is so easy just to blame somebody else because the color of their skin or because what country they were born in. Way back when, 1940s, 1950s, white people in the South were the lowest paid workers in America. Lowest paid. What did they have going for them? They could drink out of a water fountain that a black worker could not. And they fell for that stuff. And then you had, year after year, people saying to the men, hey guys, that woman wants your job. She's going to be your supervisor. You going to allow that uppity woman to boss you around? You don't have to take that. And then we went into the whole gay rights phenomenon. Gays want to take over the school department. They want all the kids to become gay. Vote for me, I'm against gay rights. You're laughing, and that's a good thing. But not so many years ago, it wasn't so funny, because that's what they did. Divide, divide, divide. And that takes us to the issue of real immigration reform. There are 11 million undocumented people in this country, and there's some out there who say, well, the solution is to take these people, 99% who came to this country for jobs, for a better opportunity for their kids, let's round them up in the middle of the night. It's what America is. We're going to round them up, we don't know quite how, and we're going to throw them out of the country. That ain't going to happen, and that must not ever happen. These are 11 million people, and I've had the opportunity to meet with a number of them, and they're scared. I talked to young kids, teenage kids, tears rolling down their cheeks, who worried that they or their parents could be picked up tomorrow and deported. Saw a young man, 11 years old, hasn't seen his mother for years. She's on the other side of the border. So our job together is to pass comprehensive immigration reform and move toward a path toward citizenship for undocumented people. When we talk about the problems facing our country, you know, a great nation is not a nation that stands up and talks about all of the millionaires and billionaires that it has. And yes, we have seen in recent years a proliferation of millionaires and billionaires. A great nation is one that focuses on the most vulnerable people in our country, on the children and on the elderly, on people today who are 80 or 90 years of age, people who have raised their families, have worked, have served in the military, have done their best as Americans, and today they find themselves living on $12,000, $13,000 a year in Social Security. In fact, half of the workers in this country between 55 and 65, you know what? They have $0 saved up for retirement, scared to death about what happens to them when they retire. And you got Republicans going out there and they're saying, we've got to cut Social Security. And my response is, no, we're not going to cut Social Security, quite the contrary. We're going to expand Social Security benefits. And no, we're not going to cut benefits for disabled veterans. And the way we expand benefits and protect our veterans is by lifting the cap on taxable income into the Social Security Trust Fund. I'm running for president because it is high time that somebody told Wall Street, corporate America, and the billionaire class that they cannot have it all. That it makes no sense that when we have millions of children living in poverty, Congress wants to give more tax breaks to large corporations and the wealthiest people in this country. That it makes no sense that you have corporations out there who today are cutting the wages of their workers, cutting the health care benefits of their workers, cutting the pensions of their workers, and then giving their CEOs huge compensation packages. Not going to happen anymore. And what we are saying is that if corporate America wants us to buy their products, and they tell that to us every night on TV in their ads, the time is long overdue for them to start manufacturing their production in this country, not in China. I am running for President of the United States because in a highly competitive global economy, we need the best educated workforce in the world. It makes no sense to me, that there are hundreds of thousands of bright young people in this country who have done well in high school, who are qualified to get into good colleges, but are unable to do so for one reason. And that reason is their families lack the funds. That is absurd. And that is why I have introduced legislation and will fight to make happen as president a process by which every public college and university in America are tuition-free. Now, some people think this is a radical idea. It is not a radical idea, and I'll tell you why. 50, 60 years ago in America, if you had a high school diploma, not everybody did, you had the opportunity to go out and get a good job and make it into the middle class. In many ways, a college degree today is the equivalent of what a high school degree was 50 or 60 years ago. And when we think about the concept of public education today, we cannot simply continue to think that public education ends at the 12th grade. Second of all over the world, countries like Germany, other countries, many Americans go to Germany for their education. You know why? Because it's tuition free. So that makes no sense to me. And second of all, we have got to address another issue, equally absurd, and that is millions of our people, and I expect some in this room, have left college deeply in debt and are paying off their student debts at very, very high interest rates. Now think about it. If we want to be a strong economy, if we want our people to get the best education possible, why are we saying to people that when you graduate college, you're going to be $40,000 or $50,000 in debt? Why are we saying, and I remember as a woman in Burlington, Vermont, talked to a couple of years ago, her dream was to become a primary care physician to treat low-income people, exactly the kind of doctors we need. She left medical school with an accumulated debt of $300,000. I thought that was as high as it gets. Wrong. I was in Iowa, gave a speech like this. A young woman came up, says, I just graduated dental school. And God knows we need all kinds of dentists in this country, major shortage in terms of affordable dental care. She said, I just graduated dental school, $400,000 in debt. So what we need to do is to say to all of those people who are carrying high interest rates on their student debt that it is absurd for you to have to pay 6, 8, 10% interest rates when you could refinance your home at 3 or 4%. That it is absurd that the federal government is making billions of dollars in profit off of the backs of working class families. So we're going to fight to make two things happen. Public colleges and universities tuition-free, substantially lower interest rates on student debt. Now you add that together, that's a pretty expensive program. That's true, about $70 billion a year. And you know we're going to pay for it? We're going to pay for it through a tax on Wall Street speculation. As all of you remember, back in 2007, 2008, Wall Street's greed, recklessness, and illegal behavior brought this country into the worst economic downturn since the Great Depression of the 1930s. Well, Wall Street is doing just fine right now. Middle class is not doing so well. Middle class bailed out Wall Street in their time of need. Now it is Wall Street's time to bail out the middle class. I am running for president because in these difficult times, against vitriolic Republican rhetoric, we must protect a woman's right to choose, and we must defend Planned Parenthood. I find it at the highest level of hypocrisy for my conservative colleagues in Congress to say, you know, we hate the government, We want to get the government out of healthcare. We want to get the government out of education. We want to cut Social Security. We want to cut Medicaid. We, want to cut everything. We hate the government. Oh, by the way, though, when it comes to a woman's right to choose, we think the government should be right there in her doctor's office. Wrong. And after so many decades of struggle, we are going to continue to make certain, against very strong opposition, that our gay brothers and sisters have the right to marry. I am running for president because I have 4 kids and 7 beautiful grandchildren, and I want to make sure that the planet that we leave to those children and children throughout the world is a planet that is healthy and a planet that is habitable. Now, as perhaps the most progressive member of the U.S. Senate, I obviously differ with my Republican colleagues on almost every issue. But that's not surprising. But on this issue, there is really something different. And I'll tell you why. I have been at hearings where I'm a member of the Health Education Committee, many hearings on health-related issues. And we may talk about cancer or diabetes or mental health or whatever. And Republicans listen and they ask sensible questions. We may disagree about funding levels. Then it go about attacking people who are doing research in cancer or Alzheimer's disease. That's not what they do. But somehow on this issue of climate change, an entire major political party is rejecting science, and that is a very dangerous thing to do. Pope Francis recently said something that I think is right on. And he said this planet, our world, is moving in a suicidal direction in terms of climate change. And as a member of the Energy Committee and the Environmental Committee, I've talked to scientists all over the world. The debate is over. Climate change is real, it is caused by human activity, and it is already causing profound disturbances all over America and all over the world. We're talking about another year in which we're having the highest recorded temperature ever, followed by the previous year. We're talking about rising sea levels. We're talking about the acidification of the ocean. That's right, that's a huge issue. I mean, we're talking about, according to the CIA, future major national security issues when people are forced to migrate because their countries or their land are flooded, they can't grow food, they can't get clean drinking water. We are talking about major, major crises. And what the scientists are telling us is we have a fairly small window of opportunity to transform our energy system away from fossil fuels into energy efficiency and sustainable energy. And let me tell you something which kind of closes the loop here. When Republicans stand up and they say, well, we don't believe in climate change, or we're not scientists, we really don't understand it, what they are really saying is that if we, in fact, listen to the scientists, if we protect our kids and our grandchildren, we are going to lose our campaign funding from the Koch brothers and from the fossil fuel industry. And what I say to my Republican colleagues, and I say this in all honesty, it is time for them to stand up, have the courage to do what many of them actually in their hearts know is right, work with us in transforming our energy system, and worry more about the planet they're going to leave their kids and grandchildren than their campaign contributors. They've got to do the right thing. And because climate change is the greatest environmental challenge of our time, I opposed the Keystone tar sands pipeline from day one. And that is why right here in New Hampshire, I believe the Northeast Energy Direct Pipeline that would carry fracked natural gas for 400 miles through 17 communities is a bad idea and should be opposed. As everybody knows, we live in a difficult world. We live in a dangerous world. And we all know that there are people out there who want to do us harm. And we have seen that manifested in too many ways in the last several months, including the tragedy in San Bernardino. Now, as President of the United States, I will defend this country, but I will do it responsibly. We do not need a quote-unquote tough foreign policy. We need a smart foreign policy. Now, as a member of Congress, when I was in the House before I was elected to the Senate, I listened very carefully to what President Bush and Vice President Cheney and others in the Bush administration had to say about the need to invade Iraq. I listened very carefully because there's no vote that a member of Congress casts that is more important as to whether or not you're sending young men and women into a war to get killed. I read what they wrote, listened to what they said, and I ended up voting against that war because I did not believe what they said. And it gives me no joy to tell you, and you can check it out on YouTube or go to my website, to hear what I said back in 2002. My fears about what happens if we invade and the destabilization of the region that would occur. It gives me no joy to say that much of what I said turned out to be true. Today, we are confronted with a barbaric organization called ISIS, an organization which, in my view, must be destroyed. But I hope that we have learned some of the very painful lessons of the past. And that is that we cannot and should not attempt to do it alone. We cannot and should not be trapped in perpetual warfare in the Middle East. We need, and as president, I will do my best to make this happen. We need to put together a broad coalition, including the strong participation of the Muslim countries in the region. While the United States and other Western nations have the strength of our militaries and our political systems. The fight against ISIS is primarily a struggle for the soul of Islam, and countering violent extremism and destroying ISIS must be done primarily by the Muslim nations. Obviously, the United States, the UK, France, Germany, Russia, Iran, and other countries must be extremely supportive and must be active in the destruction of ISIS. But the boots on the ground, for a dozen different reasons, must be Muslim boots. And I should tell you that these are not just my ideas. These exact same sentiments have been echoed by those in the region. Jordan's King Abdullah II, and Jordan, by the way, has done an extraordinary job. They are a small country in taking in refugees and in doing their job to fight ISIS. King Abdullah said in a recent speech a couple of weeks ago that terrorism, and I quote, is the greatest threat to our region and that Muslims must lead the fight against it. He noted that confronting extremism is both a regional and international responsibility, and that it is incumbent on Muslim nations and communities to confront those who seek to hijack their societies and generations with intolerance and violent ideology. Abdullah is absolutely right. And what that means is that we must bring together a coalition, and we must demand more from some countries in the region who have not done enough. While Jordan, Turkey, Egypt, and Lebanon have accepted their responsibilities for taking in Syrian refugees, other countries in the region have done little or nothing. Equally important, and this is a point that must be made, countries in the region like Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Qatar, countries of enormous wealth and resources have contributed far too little in the fight against ISIS. That must change. It has been reported that Qatar will spend over $200 billion rebuilding their infrastructure, and they are the wealthiest country per capita on earth, rebuilding their infrastructure and preparing for the 2022 World Cup. Over $200 billion. $200 billion hosting a soccer event, but very little to fight against ISIS. That has got to change. Let me conclude by saying this. As a nation and as a people, we have got to understand that our country faces a myriad of very serious problems, and I have discussed some of them today. If you turn on the TV, what they now say is, well, we got one problem, it's ISIS. We don't have to worry about old people not having enough to eat. We don't have to worry about having more people in jail than any other country. We don't have to worry about a disappearing middle class. We don't have to worry about income and wealth inequality such that almost all new income and wealth goes to the top 1%. We don't have to worry about institutional racism or broken criminal justice. We don't have to worry about. All we should focus on now, 24/7, is ISIS. And this is what I say. I say that ISIS must be destroyed, and I say that we have got to build a coalition which destroys ISIS. But I say that we are a great enough country and a smart enough country that we can destroy ISIS at the same time as we rebuild a disappearing middle class. We can do both. So I want to thank all of you for being here today in Keene State, for hosting this event. And thank you all for giving millions of older people throughout this country hope, seeing so many young people standing up and fighting back and becoming part of the political revolution. Yes, brothers and sisters, we can transform America. We can take on and defeat the billionaire class, and together, that is exactly what we're going to do. Thank you all very much.